You tonight. We have a few announcements that we need to make before we begin with Vacation Bible School. Just a reminder that there are Bibles in the back of the auditorium for Anna and Clara that need to be signed. Have a wedding coming up this Saturday, June 17th at 2 o'clock p.m. Maddie and Des here at the church building. Reception to follow in the Outreach Center. Celebration of Carol Park's life, June 24th at 6 p.m. in the Outreach Center. You're invited to share memories and enjoy a pizza party. That pizza will come from Larry's Pizza. The ladies of the church are providing desserts. If you have any questions about that or would like to help, see Greta or Sue. In lieu of flowers, please give gifts to the Southern Christian Children's Home. Bridal shower for Callaway and Chloe Hensley will be June 25th in the Outreach Center, 4 to 5:30 p.m. They're registered at Target and Amazon. Promotion Day will be July 2nd. Questions and answers will also be July 2nd, Sunday evening. Our July 4th celebration will also be July 2nd. Finger foods, desserts, and homemade ice cream and fireworks after evening services. There's a ladies' gathering Tuesday, July 11th, 5:30 p.m. at Los Fresas. If you have any questions about that, please see Dixie Parker. Girls Future Teacher Training Camp will be July 9th through the 14th. If you have any questions, see Sherry. Green Valley Bible Camp, July 16th through the 22nd. If you have any questions about that, please see Joe or Alicia. Just a reminder about our food bank. There's a list of items needed in your bulletin. If you don't mind picking those up and bringing them in. I also might mention that I went to a gender reveal party this afternoon. Those are a really big deal now. And Kate and Stephanie are going to have another little boy in October. So we're excited about that. They haven't decided on a name, so we're going with Nathan Edward. Until I'm told something different. So anyway, I'm sure it'll be something different. But October 22nd, I believe, is the due date. Several on our prayer list that we need to continue to remember. Adam House's surgery went very well. He is still in Houston for a period of time, but he is doing as well as can be expected, and that's very good news. Continue to remember the Metters family. Mike Metters' health is declining. Okay. Bill Childers, for those that didn't hear, was in the hospital with a blockage in his stomach. He had surgery today, and it has gone well. I understand maybe not completely out yet, but going well. And so that's good news as well. So the Metters family, Bill Childers, Adam House, and there's several in our list in the bulletin that I encourage you to look at and pray for in the coming week. I believe that's all the announcements I have.
Welcome to Operation Creation. Let's start out by checking in on the Apologetics Press Force. See what's going on with those guys.
I need all members of Q3 to report to the Situation Room immediately. Repeat, all members of Q3 report to the Situation Room immediately.
Whoa! I beat you. I told you I was faster. It might have had something to do with the fact that you tripped me in the hallway.
Oh, don't be so sensitive. Why do you think we got called here anyway? It's been a long time since we went to the Situation Room.
Yeah, you're right. The last time we were in here, you pushed the global panic button.
That's right. Remind me again why I did that?
I'm pretty sure your exact words were global panic. That sounds fun.
Yes, that was it. If I do recall, it wasn't that much fun, though.
No, it certainly was not. Wait, where's Quirk?
I don't know. I haven't seen her since lunch. I hope she gets here soon, though, or else we're going to get in big trouble. Again.
Quiver, thank you for your prompt response. We have a situation to assess in... Where's Quirk?
We don't know, sir. We haven't seen her since lunch.
That's right, sir. But, for the record, I was the first one here.
Well, that's very good, Quip. I'll make a note of that. I'll put it right over here next to the note of you pushing the global panic button.
Touche, sir. Well played, I might add.
Sir, would you like us to go find Quirk?
That's all right. I'll just call her again. Quirk, please report to the Situation Room.
So, anyone want to hear a joke?
Quip, I've just called you to the Situation Room for the second time in 3 years. Do you really think this is an appropriate time for jokes?
No, sir, certainly not. I was just thinking that since we were waiting on Quirk and no one was really saying nothing, I would ease the tension with a bit of humor.
Go ahead, Quip.
Yes, sir. What do you call a beehive with no exit? Unbelievable.
I knew that was a mistake. Let's just wait in silence while we wait for Quirk to arrive.
I thought you said sanitation man. So I've been in the janitor's closet for the last 5 minutes.
Why would anyone call you to the janitor's closet?
You never know. If you need to have a top secret meeting, no one would ever suspect that you'd be in the janitor's closet. I mean, I did wonder how we were all going to fit in there, though, with all those mops.
Never mind that, Quirk. We're all here now, and that's what matters. I'm sure you're wondering why I called you all here today.
Wait, sir, before you get started, I have a question.
Yes, Quiver, what is it?
Wait. Quirk, where'd you get that apple?
This apple?
Yes, the apple in your hand, the apple that you're eating. Where'd you get it?
Well, I was still hungry after I ate my lunch, and I found it in the fridge, and I thought, cool, an apple, so I took it.
Did it ever occur to you that that might be someone else's apple?
No, it didn't. I'm not a very inquisitive person. I'm more of a hungry person.
Well, Quirk, it was actually my apple. You put a note under it that said, Quiver's apple, please do not eat.
Now that you mention that, I do remember seeing something under it when I took it.
If you saw the note, then why are you eating the apple?
Well, I was really hungry and it looked really long, and I'm not a person who reads notes she finds under apples. I'm more a person who eats apples.
Allow me. Quirk, where do you think apples in refrigerators come from?
That's a good question. Apple trees?
Of course they come from apple trees. Every apple comes from an apple tree. But if an apple is in a fridge, how do you think it got there? Did it just appear?
That can really happen. If that's true, I might not have to go grocery shopping anymore.
Team, as entertaining as this is, I must insist that we get back to the briefing. In fact, this situation with the mysterious apple is actually a perfect introduction to our briefing tonight.
Did you hear that? Perfect introduction.
I've called you all here because it's the job of the Apologetics Press Force to defend the truth of the foundations of the universe against all who would attack it. Our job here is to gather information, discover truth, and defend that truth at all costs. The enemies of truth are many, and they're often subtle in their attacks on the truth about the foundations of the universe. However, the APF's GAP radar has picked up a number of life forms entering the Earth's atmosphere that may seem to be a bit more hostile.
Sir, what do you mean by hostile?
Actually, if we could back up further, what do you mean by our gap radar?
Of course, I realize it's been a while since we used this equipment, so I'll explain. The APF's GAP radar scans for galactic and planetary threats to the foundations of our universe. Here, let me show you.
Wow, that is so cool. Really, really cool.
I'll show you over here instead.
Oh, okay, now we see it.
Yes, the equipment is really cool. However, the entities that are coming our way are not nearly as cool. In fact, they're quite hostile.
Yeah, let's get back to that. What exactly do you mean by hostile?
I mean that, whoever they are, they're here to attack our foundational beliefs in God, creation, and the Bible itself.
Whoa, that does sound hostile. What do we know about them so far?
Right now, all that we know is that this group of attackers is here to attack the origins of our universe.
What exactly do you mean, sir?
Well, Quirk, I'm glad you asked. It means that their view of our universe is about the same as your view of the apple that you took.
You mean they're gonna eat the universe?
No, Quirk, they're not going to eat the universe.
Now that would be hostile.
And pretty unhealthy, I would imagine.
It means that they believe that the universe, and they're here to teach people that the universe all just kind of appeared out of nowhere.
But that's impossible, isn't it?
Well, if an apple can appear in a refrigerator, why can't the universe appear out of nowhere?
Well, now that you put it like that, I guess I don't really believe that the apple came from nowhere.
Yes, well, this group of attackers really does believe that the entire universe and everything in it came from nothing.
What are we gonna do, sir?
It looks like we're getting more information about this group of attackers now. They go by the name of the Loon Squad.
The Loon Squad? What does that mean?
Are you kidding? It means they're loons. Only a loon could believe that the universe came from nothing.
Let's not call people names, Quirk. The name Loon actually stands for life out of nothing, and is a perfect description of exactly what they're here to teach people. Gap radar finally started working. So, they're here to teach people that all life came from nothing.
What are we gonna do?
Well, we're going to monitor this group as they enter our atmosphere and relay all information that we can to our classroom teachers. In the meantime, the classroom teachers are going to teach the kids about the truth about how the universe got here, so they can help us defend it.
Should we be scared, sir?
Yeah, shouldn't we be scared right now?
Not at all, Quirk. In fact, the truth never has anything to fear from those who attack it. As defenders, we simply need to learn the truth and be willing to defend it. And depending on who attacks next, we may need to have the help of some additional defenders. But as you can see, there is absolutely nothing to be afraid of.
Sir, what do you mean additional defenders?
Well, Quiver, there's many different people all around the world with different talents, abilities, and knowledge that can help us defend the truth about the foundations of our universe. These people, when we gather information, we can send it to them as well as our classroom teachers, and so that the kids can learn more about the truth. When they get this information, it is also very helpful for our kids to know that there are other people out there fighting just like we are to help defend the truth about the foundations of our universe.
So, what do you want us to do while the kids are in class?
I want the three of you to monitor the Loon Squad as they enter our atmosphere and relay all vital information to our classroom teachers. In the meantime, I will be standing by at the Defenders database, ready to send any help that I can to help fight these attackers.
Yes, sir.
Kids, are you ready to help us defend against the universe and learn how our entire universe and all of us got here? Good. We'll meet up back after class and assess the situation, but I have confidence that the truth, as always, will win this fight. But before we go off to class, we have a few songs that we like to sing. I know y'all guys always like songs. And then we will dismiss with a prayer afterwards. We're going to start off with Who's the King of the Jungle? Everybody stand up for these songs? Does everybody remember this? Can you raise your hand if you remember it? All right, I'm not seeing a whole lot of hands, all right? So every single time we sing Who's the King of the Jungle, it says who. You're going to act like you're an ape, right? Who. And then Who's the King of the Sea? You're going to go bubble, bubble, bubble. Act like you're in the ocean. And Who's the King of the Universe? And Who's the King of me? And we're going to sing His name is Jesus, Jesus. He's the king of the jungle, who. He's the king of the sea, water, 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 or bubble, bubble, bubble. He's the king of the universe, and he's the king of me. All right, everybody got it? All right, ready? Who's the king of the jungle? Who's the king of the sea? Bubble, bubble, bubble. Who's the king of the universe? And who's the king of me? His name is Jesus. Yes. He's the king of the jungle, He's the king of the sea, bubble, bubble, bubble. He's the king of the universe, and he's the king of me. Good job. Y'all guys don't seem very excited. Are you guys tired? You ready to go to bed? You ready to go to bed? Yeah, you good? No? Let's get excited. Come on, let's sing some songs. Have some fun. I know y'all guys will like this song. Next song is the hippopotamus song. All right. In the beginning, God made the seas and the forest filled with trees. He made the mountains up so high, and at the top He placed the sky. His fingerprints are everywhere, just to show how much He cares. And in the middle, He had lots of fun. He made a hippo that weighs a ton. Hip, 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 hippopotamus. Hip, hip, hooray, God made all of us. Hip, 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 hippopotamus. Hip, hip, hooray, God made all of us. In the beginning, God made the seas and the forest filled with trees. He made the mountains up so high, and at the top He placed the sky. His fingerprints are everywhere, just to show how much He cares. And in the middle, He had lots of fun. He made a kangaroo that weighs a ton. Kanga, kanga, kangaroo. Hip, hip, hooray, God made me and you. Kanga, kanga, kangaroo. Hip, hip, hooray, God made me and you. In the beginning, God made the seas and the forest filled with trees. He made the mountains up so high, and at the top He placed the sky. His fingerprints are everywhere, just to show how much He cares. And in the middle, He had lots of fun. He made a manatee that weighs a ton. Manna, manna, manatee. Hip, hip, hooray, God made you and me. Manna, manna, manatee. Hip, hip, hooray, God made you and me. Good job. All right, we have 2 more songs, and then we're going to be dismissed to class. First song is one everybody should know, Happy and You Know It. Everybody know this song? All right, ready? If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, stomp your feet. If you're happy and you know it, stomp your feet. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, stomp your feet. If you're happy and you know it, show your teeth. If you're happy and you know it, show your teeth. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, show your teeth. If you're happy and you know it, tweak your beak, tweak, tweak. If you're happy and you know it, tweak your beak, tweak, tweak. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, tweak your beak, tweak, tweak. If you're happy and you know it, shout amen, amen. If you're happy and you know it, shout amen, amen. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, shout amen, amen. If you're happy and you know it, do them all. Tweet, tweet, amen. If you're happy and you know it, do them all. Tweet, tweet, amen. If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it, do them all. Tweet, tweet, amen. Good job. All right, we have one more song, and then we're going to be dismissed to classes. And it's Deep and Wide. And everybody know how you do this one? All right, so you start off, you go deep and wide. All right? It's deep and wide. You have a fountain flowing, deep and wide. All right? And every time we get through the end of it, we're going to cut off a word. All right? So the next time we go through it, it's going to be and wide. And wide. All right? Everybody got it? All right. Deep and wide, there's a fountain flowing deep and wide. Deep and wide, there's a fountain flowing deep and wide. And wide, there's a fountain flowing and wide. And wide, and wine. There's a fountain flowing and wine. There's a fountain flowing there's a fountain flowing. Good job. All right. Now it's time to be dismissed to classes, and I believe, yes, the 5th and 6th grade class will be dismissed first. So 5th and 6th grade, you are dismissed to go to your arts and crafts. You just go out this way and go out that door. All right. Next, we'll have our team class go ahead and go. I heard it. It's fine. All right, our 3rd and 4th grade, go ahead and go. And then our preschool can go. Preschool, kindergarten, my bad. And then 1st and 2nd grade can go ahead and follow. Do you want an introduction?
Sherry asked me if I could do Sunday and Wednesday, and I said, sure, why not? And I forgot there's some exercise before you do this. That way you get nice and warm before you get to the lectern. Huff and puff a little bit. That'll go away after a while. I tried to do what these kids are doing, and for some reason, I'm not as coordinated as I was once upon a time. Not sure what's going on there.
Hey, Wendell.
We have, what we're going to cover today is creation. All the sessions are related to that, and we'll go around and look at some things. Just quick, getting kind of set up. This is not a normal Sunday, so we have set aside 2 hours, and I think, I want to fill that up. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to cover a few things in here, and when I'm done with it, I'll also put some of the links that are in the original PowerPoint that you can look at on Facebook, and I'll mention that on the last slide. If I did all the material the way they set it up, you pick what you want to do. If you do all of it, it's about 3+ hours. And anybody want me to do 3 hours? Oh, Zach does. Zach's an electrical engineer, so we're not going to listen to him on that. So. I got a couple kids over there that they're engineering students, about to be engineering students, one of them. And they're kind of nerds. They won't admit it, but, talk to them for a little while, you'll find out. Good kids. So, our title is Operation Creation, Defending the Foundations of the Universe. I'm going to talk about some of the things I've experienced, the things I've seen in science. There's a lot of people out there that I've talked to, even in church, that believe that they can grab what's in the world and what's in the Bible that doesn't seem to match up, and somehow say, okay, I'm going to accept all of these. And that's not a good thing. And one of the reasons why is we can go back and look all the history in the Bible, all of the things that have been said. There's been a lot of people out there that have talked about, well, the church just doesn't understand this. These places did not exist, and then somebody's digging around, and turns out, yeah, there's an actual place. The one we did last year had some of those same things where they used archaeology to identify some of the problems and things that go on. Let's go to the next slide. One of the things you may have heard is evolution. It's a fact. And that's not even a scientific term. It's a fact. It's settled in science. And you've heard that in other things where people just want you to shut up and listen to what they believe is correct. And we need to look at the Bible. We need to look at what it says. We need to know the consistency that's in the Bible. Now, one of the things they did here, I went ahead and put it all on one page. There's microevolution, and I don't like to even use that because people have a very specific thing evolution is. But that's species change from one species to another. Radical differences, core DNA changes that we have never seen in history. But what people are calling microevolution is, say for instance, you decide to breed dogs and you want one that has curly hair. And, every once in a while, some of the puppies will have curly hair, and so you'll keep those and find another litter that somebody else has that has curly hair. And over time, there's slight differences, but the genetics, the core genetics, the structures, has not changed the animal. You haven't gone from a dog to a horse. And some of the stuff where they're doing macroevolution, really large scale, that's the one that we kind of fight in the schools. We have to deal with that. So, oh yeah, absolutely, that's true. If you're a scientist, one of the things you need to be able to do is experiment and reproduce what the original scientist has found. Has anybody done that with evolution? No, because it's not possible. A lot of people go, oh yeah, it's science, it's science. Well, if I look at the basics of science, there's no way you can reproduce it. They say, well, it took millions of years. That's what you used to hear. Oh, it took probably a couple billion years, or 4 billion years, or 9 billion years. And it's like, how many millions and billions of years do you need for something improbable to happen? I don't think it's possible. The next one is cosmic evolution. And this one is actually new. So we go in, we do evolution, say, yeah, we thought somehow lightning hit the ocean and it made some proteins, and those proteins eventually turned into life, and that life turned into more advanced life. It was gaining function as it went. And then after that, they said, well, let's tackle the universe. And that's cosmic evolution. And one of the things we're going to talk about, does the Big Bang fit with the Bible? There's some really crazy things about that. Let's go to the Big Bang Theory. It's all these different things that they're trying to figure out. And if you go back when this first came out, I think it's in the 30s, 1930s. And if you talk about evolution, that was one guy watching birds on an island and seeing slightly different colors on the birds. Maybe the beak was slightly different. It didn't go from a bird to, a walrus. But there was just minor changes there. But one of the things in the Big Bang is, let's see if this will work. Right down here at the bottom, that's supposed to be what the Big Bang Theory says is there was a singularity or a single point that had all energy and matter in it. And that's what all this came from. Now, some of you have been on a trip. You took a suitcase, and maybe you're trying to help kids pack, and they've got their stuff in there, and then they start putting in their toys, their electronics, their food, and then there's this big gap. It's like, well, I can't get all this in here. And then you find out, oh, they didn't put in their shoes, they didn't put in their underwear, and you're looking at the suitcase and say, well, this is what we call compression fit in engineering. You're going to have to push really hard and hope the zipper doesn't blow. Now, think of this. You don't have a suitcase, you have a small cup in the Lord's Supper. And you're going to put a few things in that. You go, well, I got a few things, I want to do some more. Now I'm going to take this building and I'm going to put it in that cup. Now I'm going to take the earth and put it in the cup. Now I'm going to take the sun. There's a star that is that I've seen on one of the telescopes, found it really far out there that it would cover a big chunk of our entire solar system. It's that big. Take that piece and all the other millions of stars and put it in the cup. Is anybody doubtful that we can do that? So I took a couple of nuclear engineering classes. This was a guy that was at Los Alamos, great teacher, had white hair, unusual guy, great teacher. He'd make something complex make sense. And so we started talking about what went on when they were doing all this stuff. And the biggest bang that I can think of that the world's familiar with is a nuclear bomb. So what they do is they get uranium-235 or plutonium. They put it in a ball that's approximately this size, 2 to 3 kilos. I don't know what the number is. We probably don't need to know. But what they do is they have bombs around that, and it comes in, and it compresses a metal ball. And it slightly compresses it. Now, remember what we were doing with the cups? So we do this, and all the atoms, all the components start getting closer and closer together, and they don't work so well. But with the nuclear bomb, all that stuff goes together, and it goes haywire, and there's a big explosion. And that's the only Big Bang Theory that I believe. We'll talk about Einstein just a little bit. But they're saying all these things happen, but in the fourth slide it talks about what God is telling us. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. I've had people tell me, well, I read in the Bible days is like 1,000 years to God. You know, we're going to look at some of the issues that people go, okay, I think these perfectly match. They don't discredit each other. There's no battle between creation and the Big Bang Theory. There's some specific things, and if you get into the Bible, you start seeing really quickly what's going on. Day one. So we're just going to talk about the sequence of what goes on. You're familiar with this in Genesis 1. You talk about an amazing story, the way it starts. Like, oh, okay, you want to know where you're from, everything that's happened? We're going to cover that in about a chapter. So day one, we had space, time, earth, water, and light. And you thought some of your days were busy. Day two, the waters of the earth are separated, presumably forming an atmosphere. We don't know for sure. Day three, land is formed and plant life is created. Day four, the sun, moon, stars, and all other light-giving space entities are created. Now, there are some people that believe the Bible, that they don't know that much about it, or they just want to, oh, science is good, all science is good, and the Bible is good. But I believe the Bible is where we have truth because of the consistency over thousands of years. Day 5. Flying and swimming creatures are created according to their kinds. Day 6. Land animals, creeping creatures, humans are created according to their kinds. So we look at all these different things, and as you look at this, there's a lot of complexities that come in. And this has been around for a very, very long time. There was no technology. When Moses was doing his thing, Noah was doing his thing, they didn't have computers, they didn't have all the tech, they didn't have necessarily a scientific process. But if you look at what some of the things they try to say, they kind of follow the Bible. Jesus started out and got the basics put together, and what part do we look at that was made in the image of God? Man, us. That's one of the last things there. All right, slide 11, some problems. So if you start talking to some people and they say, well, you know, I believe in evolution, I believe in the Big Bang, all these things make sense. The order, the timeline of Earth and stars, what's in the Bible makes sense. And their Earth's initial makeup, water versus molten lava. So there's a lot of things, if you follow science very much, you'll see, oh, that we absolutely know this. One phrase I hear, well, that's settled science. And that, for a pure scientist, they get really upset about that because there's always something new to learn. And sometimes you find out that somebody is radically wrong. You can just go back a couple hundred years and some of the things that people said, you know, we kind of chuckle now because we know. The order and timeline of sun and plants. So, think about this. We have 6 days where God does all these things, and they need millions, possibly billions of years. Say, for instance, you said, okay, I'm doing the Big Bang and the evolution stuff, and I'm going to go ahead and do plants, and I think the sun's going to come in after that. You know, you talk to people, Parts Brothers, they know that I think we need light for plants, right? So some of the initial things where they were trying to do that, they had this stuff all mixed up, and they had a real problem with the amount of time they needed to do all this variation that has never been seen. Timeline of flying creatures and plants, the order timeline of fish and fruit trees, birds from dinosaurs. So creation, is it a myth or a fact? I'm convinced it's a fact. There's only one of them that's not changed over thousands of years. And we'll talk about some of the ones that have changed a lot just recently. Some people think, oh, well, we've known this all the time. No, scientists, what they said 100 years ago is radically different than what they say today. Do you want to get your truth from somebody that changes it every 50 years, or do you want to get it from somebody that it's been in there thousands of years? Here's some examples where the Bible emphasizes the Genesis account. So if we lean on, pseudoscience of what some people say it is, that doesn't work that well. But at the same time, some people don't think that the Bible hits that much. But here's some verses. James talks about Abraham's sacrifice of Isaac as historical. In Jude, individuals and events in Genesis are real. In John, considered Genesis to be historical. What does some schools say? Oh, no, we can't use that. That's not historical, that's myth. Wow, it's amazing, something that's so consistent over thousands of years that has things in it even we probably don't know now that we can discover. The writer of Hebrews cites Genesis as historical. Creation, myth, or fact? I think it's fact. On slide 13, Peter, Paul, Matthew, Luke, citing Genesis as historical, talking about people, places, and events. One of the things that's fascinating, if you start to ask yourself, why would somebody attack the Bible and come up with something outrageous? Say, for instance, you had a kid, and there's a broken window. You say, hey, what happened? I think the dogs ran into it. Maybe an asteroid hit it. Sound a little implausible? Why does somebody do that? People come up with implausible things when they don't want to acknowledge the truth. And if you don't want to acknowledge that God's there and you have rules to your life to have salvation, suddenly you will grasp at other things. And I think that's part of the things that are driving it. And let's go a little further. Jesus himself clearly considered the events of Genesis to be literal history. I think there's some people that don't realize that. They say, well, that's just a story. That's a kid's story. Well, I'll read some of the stories, what they say in science journals, and it doesn't match up really well with what they've said in the past. And a lot of times there's a lot of holes in it that doesn't make sense. The Bible was consistent. So the next thing, there's 8 big problems with the Big Bang. We'll hit a couple of science things. We won't get real deep into it. But if you start to look at some of it, it's really interesting that there's some things that you can do as a scientist or a theoretical scientist, which has even more ability to, just come up with craziness. That's a lot of the stuff that you hear in that ends up in science fiction books later on. The first one, the problem of the origin of the laws of science. Now, there's a guy named Stephen Hawking. He passed away. I read some of his books. Some of his early books, he was more agnostic. He didn't know if there was a God or not. But some of his science was pretty solid, and he had some interesting things. And then, because he's a theoretical scientist, he likes to guess. And a lot of the things he comes up with is something you see in movies and, really outlandish things. But Stephen Hawking, this is what this guy says. Stephen Hawking gets it very, very close to saying, well, where did the laws of physics come from? That's where we might find some sort of God. And then he backs away and doesn't return to the subject. So Stephen Hawking, agnostic and then ultimately not believing in God, he's like, well, maybe we need to have a God that makes physics. The laws of physics, I've studied those. If you do that in just a really straightforward class and it's not doing the guessing stuff, physics is powerful. If you're going to be an engineer, you're going to deal with physics because what it says is what actually happens. It's observational. The stuff that you see in Big Bang, in creation, that's not observable. It's guesswork. The next one, on slide 16, the problem of the origin of matter and energy. And to me, this is the most powerful one. This is the first one that just really clicked for me when I was younger. It's one of my first full engineering classes in Fayetteville. They talked about the first law of thermodynamics. Matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be converted from one to another. Now, there was this guy, Einstein, that had crazy hair, and you hear E equals MC squared, and you go, oh man, that's so complex, it's very difficult. Nuclear class teacher said, okay, you've heard this, do you know what this means? And we're kind of like, we're engineers, it's our first class. I have no clue. I was that student, I'm kind of a dummy, can you help me out on this? He says, well, what's happening in E equals MC squared? E is energy, M is mass, C is the speed of light, and it's squared. Speed of light's a big number. But what he figured out, they were doing nuclear stuff, Madame Curie and some others were doing experiments before they knew how deadly this stuff was. And for some reason, some of this stuff that would shoot out particles and have all this energy coming out, there's heat, and it's just sitting there. And the weight had changed in a very tiny way. And what they figured out is if you take mass and turn it into energy, it is a massive amount of energy. And so when you get those two pieces of uranium and push them together and blow up the bomb, some of that stuff turns to pure energy. Now, the Big Bang has one thing. So let's do an eye test. You see the little ball in there in the pen? So all the material and all the energy that's in our universe right now is in a ball smaller than that. Well, that's credible, right? And you can go in and look at nanoparticles and stuff that's even inside atoms, and they're trying to break them apart and get more. And they think there's one that's a God particle that makes all this stuff make sense, but even then they're acknowledging God. But there's that one point, and suddenly it just explodes. Sorry about that. It does an explosion, it's much louder than the microphone. So when that blew out, it starts kicking out a lot of stuff in a very short time. Some of it turns into dust, gas, and you start getting different elements and massive amounts of heat. If you guys can answer this, I'll give you my vehicle. If God doesn't exist, who put that dot there? You got it? I only have one answer for it. Nobody. Nobody but God. God is the one creator, the one that has done all these things. And if you talk to one of those guys and say, hey, where'd you get your material? That's not what I study as a scientist. Well, that's kind of convenient. The laws of causality, every effect in the natural realm always has a cause. If you go down far enough, God's there. A lot of people say, well, you know, this happened. Well, how did this start? I don't study that. Next one, number 3, the inflation problem. So some of you have been around stuff that kind of blows up. Hopefully it was purposeful, or maybe 4th of July, not something that was a surprise, like you accidentally poured gas on a fire. And there's this pressure that comes out. It goes out really quickly in all directions that it can, and because it's going through air, it slows down eventually, but it doesn't. Now, according to this, a little bitty bit that turns into all the material, all the energy in the world, it blows up and it starts going out. It's moving really fast. And some of the materials are moving further apart as they're moving away from the center. So they did calculations, said, you know what? This is inflating. It's just getting bigger and bigger in a certain way. And then they found out, well, it turns out it's not doing that. Our theory was wrong. And so they start throwing a bunch of different numbers. And the next slide, has anybody ever heard of dark energy or dark matter? I think that was on Star Wars, right? Yeah. You start to hear some of the theoretical physics. It's like, this has never happened, but I see it on the sci-fi shows where everybody has colored shirts that they wear, and you know the guys, is it the red or the blue shirts that always die?
Red.
Starts with red?
Yeah.
Yeah, the red. You don't want to be a red shirt actor going in there. It's like, oh, I've only got one episode and I'm done. I can tell some little monster's going to get me. So dark energy, they don't know. Now, I had a situation when I was in high school, and I love science, and I had a chemistry teacher, odd guy, but we got along really well, and I had really high grades. Didn't always have high grades, but I did really well. But we had a lab, and I knew it was broken somehow. And so I did the calculation. I said, well, this doesn't match up. Either we're using the wrong formula, or this is the wrong material. And I'd like to get it correct, because I want to know what's right. And he goes, well, McCoy, let's see what we do. And he started just adding numbers to it. This is a teacher in high school. Nathan would never do that. He'd say, go kick a ball, kid. But he kept doing that, and I looked at him and I said, Coach, I can add numbers to something if I know what the final answer is. And this is what some of the scientists may have been doing. I don't know. But they didn't have the right answer, so they said, you know what? 73% of the material out there, dark matter, dark energy, and you can't detect it. Well, isn't that convenient? Another thing they said, well, this explosion, this Big Bang goes everywhere, and because it was so intense, it is going to be really smooth. It's going to be uniform, homogeneous. If you look at this part of the universe, it's going to look like this, and it's not like that. It's more like porridge. Does that make sense? You have some big chunks in there, and stuff is not put together. I don't think God maybe went this way. He kind of stirred it up for the physicists and just made it a mess for them. I don't know. You know, I do believe God does have a sense of humor. Some of the things that you see in the Bible sometimes. The next one, number 6, the antimatter problem. And again, we hear about antimatter where? Star Trek, Star Wars, all of those. And antimatter is actually a real thing. There's a positron and an electron. They're opposite charges, and they're very, very tiny. I mean, what is it? If you have a gram of a specific material, it has 6.023 times 10 to the 23. Like lots and lots and lots in there. So you take one little electron and a negatron, you put them together, and it has enough energy that you can physically hear it. Turns that little bit of material to energy. So, based on the Big Bang, if all this stuff blows out, you should have antimatter and regular matter. Not there. So if I'm working on a project, maybe I'm putting gas in my lawnmower and it's not working, so I pour some more gas in it. You know, I pick up my yellow can again, I pour some more gas in it. Nothing's not working right. It's absolutely wrong, but I'm going to say it's correct and just keep cranking on it, even though I just put diesel in a gas engine. That's basically what you have with this. Like, well, we have antimatter and matter. We can expect that to be it. The next one is the Fermi paradox, and I really like this one. I don't know if any of you have seen things pop up on a browser where it says, "Oh, they found a new planet. This planet possibly has water. Here's a planet that's between this sun and these planets, and it probably has approximately the same environment of Earth." And, you know, they're all big about that because they saw it on a Star Trek episode. You know, oh, this is a Class M planet. I can go in there, and if there's oxygen, I can live there. What the Fermi paradox is, we know just based on the number of solar systems and all the things that are out there that they're seeing with the telescopes, it's like, oh yeah, there's definitely some other people. Because we know that if we just have these elements, we can eventually have life. And there's enough planets out there that there's life out there. But for some reason, they're not contacting us. We're not seeing them. Well, I know why it's not there, and the Bible didn't say anything about he was going to put some people somewhere else on the other side of the universe. So, one of the things, I can't believe I forgot his name. There was one of the atheists, and he was talking about how evolution is just solid science and it's easy to understand, and if anybody denies it, they just don't understand. They're not smart, they're not intelligent. And there's one thing that they look at and say, well, if this really happened, this would be so radical a change, there would have to be something that kicks it off. And even the people that are atheists before the Big Bang, they're just like, I wish we could find out how life changed so aggressively, so fast. And this atheist finally came up with an idea. Aliens. An alien came in and contributed DNA somehow to the oceans that ended up, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And we're the silly ones? No. So, when you hear that, somebody that's atheist and they're what I call proselytizing atheists, they want to bring everybody to them. There's a guy that sings a song, an atheist song, and it's it's entertaining, but at the same time it's sad because they're refusing to acknowledge what's right in front of them. The anthropic principle, this one is where scientists and others say, well, we look at all the things that's going on, and Earth is so perfect, it's in such balance. You will hear this from people that are interested in green type things. They want nature to be taken care of because it's such a delicate balance. And if all these things are not taken care of, we could just kill our Earth instantly. And what they're saying is the Earth is a perfect design. The more we look, the more we understand that there's so many things that go together. If you take certain animals out of a certain environment, they're not going to make it. They're in the right place for what they are. As we look at these, you can see there's a lot of problems on the side of science. Our problem is we have faith. And we have a Bible that's consistent for thousands of years. I think I like the side I'm on. I'm pretty comfortable with it. I've done a lot of science. I've done engineering. I've studied science. I find some of the stuff that's, quote, experimental is fun for sci-fi stuff, but it's not good to guide the way you live. The last slide is final thoughts. True science requires questioning, and it is never settled. So if somebody says, oh, the science is settled, what they're saying is, I have my opinion, and I really like it, so don't talk about that. I've seen where they say, oh, all these scientists said it's settled, and all those scientists are going, oh, we didn't say that. We just signed that we believe this is the case. There's going to be new information, new research. Next one, scientists select the question they answer. So if you have a kid, you ask them a question, they answer a totally different question. Well, why don't they answer the question you asked? Because they don't have a good answer. So in science, in research, you get to go out and pick. I've done some of this. I actually did a dissertation. It was a miserable thing, but got it done. But I got to pick what my questions were. Well, my coordinator, he gave me some other stuff that made it even more difficult, but it was still doable. But if I could tap on one of those theoretical physicists, okay, here's your new dissertation. You're going to get another doctorate. And what I need you to do is explain in a way how that one single dot got there before the Big Bang. They go, I was thinking I'd look at algae and certain light levels. I think that would be a better one for me. So, there's a difference there. Theoretical scientists versus scientists and engineers. And scientists and engineers sometimes bump heads because engineers say, well, we do the actual work where we complete it. We've got quite a few engineers in here. We've got Mike and me and Brad. Surely there's no more than that. But we do have some in there. But theoretical, there is no way you can go back and test hypothesis because it's out there. Like, well, you know, the small dot already exploded. There's not a way to check that. But if I get something that says, hey, we're trying to do something metal that protects a certain item, well, I can just look up the math, do some testing, and I'm done. Scientists can do the same thing. Now, here's some of the things that are missing. Where's the material for the origin of the universe? The laws and rules of how material expands? No clue. There is no physics out there that can define it. Now, you can go, if you talk to them, they say, oh, well, we just need about 30 to 40 seconds, or what, a very small time. And then we can say that it's going to go into this amount of physics. Even Einstein had problems with physics when he got into very small things, and there's some things he had to do later on, and he actually had to say, oh, I was wrong about this. And he actually did that. Observation of the Big Bang, anybody see it? Come on. AZ, do you see it? Yeah. It was a little bit past after it. Observation of the expansion, observation of the link fossils. One of the things they talk about out there, even in the science community, it's like, well, you know, we believe evolution completely, but there's gaps. There's gaps everywhere. We're really good at, you know, the birds are going to change their feathers a little bit, colors will adjust, and that's just the minor changes. It has nothing to do with what they call evolution. What's the size of the universe and what is at its edge? I don't know if you ever have one of those moments where you look up into the sky and it's overwhelming. First time I had good glasses when I was kind of young, oh wow, there's a lot of stars there. I'm in such a small place. You ask them, how big is the universe? Oh, we anticipate it's this one. How big is the container? What is the container made out of? I don't know. I've looked at that and it makes my head hurt. And I realize, oh yeah, I don't use their book, but I use mine. God built it in His way. He's the creator. So, I'll have some of the links on the Facebook group. I'll have a quick prayer, and then if there's anybody that didn't get to do the Lord's Supper this morning, we're going to have that over here after the prayer. I won't do a song because that would be really horrible for you. And people always do that. But let's pray. Thank you, Lord, for this day. Thank you for all the work that's been done for VBS. Thank you for the children here that have open minds and are seeking to understand you. Thank you for the teachers that they're coming in and working with these kids and giving them the basis to understand you and the love that you have for the people here. Help us to do the things we need to do. Help us to look at scientific things from a Bible standpoint. Help us to make sure that we follow you and follow your word is the one solid truth that we can always depend on. Please guide us through this week and bless us through the other VBS sessions. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. And if anybody has needs to go to over there for the Lord's Supper, they can do that right now. Other than that, we're dismissed a little early. Yeah, but I'll have some of that other stuff there. Thanks. If you have a question.